And we are now at office hours. What is the date? It is July 8th, 2020. Still the pandemic, but we're all healthy and safe, so that's good. So today we had, Allie, you asked a really good question.
Thank you.
And so I want to make sure we get to that and then get to everything. Oh, sorry. My executive vice president of catting has decided to take a shower right now. Very loud shower. So let me see if I can read your question, because I want to make sure I get it straight and then let you elaborate a little bit about this. So you admit, she says, I know this is a little out of order regarding the grand scheme of implementing an SEO plan, but I want to specifically optimize our blog posts as they are the most frequent additions to our site. Would it be effective to create a standard, quote, opener and closer for all blog posts that uses the keywords or phrases that I'm identifying? My thought is that it not only increases the use of those phrases, but also allows me to standardize the SEO key phrase for each individual blog post rather than having wildly different ones based on each topic, every time a new post is published. Is that anything you'd like to add to that now that you've thought about your question? Or
no, I don't think so. I think that, I mean, unless it's confusing what I was trying to say. But yeah, that's the thing. So like the long-term game plan, obviously is going to take time. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is something that I can implement now that won't take as much time,
right?
Because we do blog posts at least once a week, typically 2 or 3 times a week,
which is a great practice.
Yeah, and there's that little SEO part where you're supposed to put that key phrase, and we always end up using a blog specific key phrase, which is not, and it's always the little frowny face, on the SEO, because it's like has all these reasons why. So I'm just trying to figure out ways that we can implement something right away without having to take a lot of time.
Sure. So the first part of your question, I think, is really important, which is, jumping ahead in the game plan to the blog post. And hey, you know what? You can do it however you want, right? It doesn't hurt my feelings if you want to skip around in the guide, in the process. I would recommend, however, not skipping what's really important step here, which is, what are your blog posts accomplishing?
Okay.
It's no good to optimize a blog post if it's not doing anything for you.
Okay.
So to make sure you've taken the time to work through the early parts of the game plan, which again are kind of boring and don't feel like you're doing SEO, right? Because it's like, all right, set up analytics, set up a goal, make sure you track it, set up these dashboards, set up these kinds of things that like, wait, when are we going to get to the SEO thing? But the whole point of that is making sure you know what these blog posts are doing, because you could be wasting your time with the blog posts,
right?
But we won't know unless we have data to show it. Right. And it would be a bad idea to say, well, I was told to blog 3 or 4 times a week, it must be doing something. When in reality, you don't know if it's doing it because you might have skipped the steps of setting up the tracking properly. Okay. That's why that's such an important part to begin with. Again, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, but what we'll end up doing is saying, oh, this blog post generated a ton of traffic, but that blog post generated some traffic and some people contacted us for services. So now you can go through and you can say, I need to talk more about this topic than that topic, right? And so now you're making, rather than fulfilling an arbitrary number of blog posts, 2 or 3 a week, which is great,
right?
You are focusing your effort. So what if you could write 1 blog post every month? And because you took the time to do a really good one and you looked at the data to show you what people really want to know, now you write a really good blog post once a month, and every time you publish it, it's even more effective than I just write a lot hoping something works.
Yeah.
So, so I want to encourage you. I know it seems boring. It doesn't feel like you're making progress, but this is one of those things where it's like you'll publish all these blog posts. You'll be like, I really wish I knew which of these is working. Or worse, you'll get to the point where you're like, I'm totally out of ideas for blog posts. I've written 100 in the last month. And you just kind of stagnate because you're like, but with the data, you can kind of say, oh, this would generate traffic, which is cool, but like, did any of those traffic become new customers?
Right.
And if you knew that, then you'd know, oh, more like this, or you know, hey, this is traffic, but why is it not producing customers? Is it not the right keyword? Is it not the right topic? Are we not making a call to action in the blog post?
Right. Because we also have basically like two different intents. And one is to drive customers, but the other is also just to drive traffic and not like get people to know our brand name. Like, so professionals, not necessarily clients.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other kind of kettle of fish, is optimizing that aspect of it as opposed to driving, you know, potential customers.
But if you think about it though, you gotta be careful about the whole traffic as a goal thing. Because traffic as a goal could be expense. It could be an expense. Let's say you write a really, really great article that gets picked up by the New York Times. Wow. The New York Times wants to syndicate your article because you did such a great job putting a lot of great research into it. I mean, wouldn't we all love that, right? But now your server gets shut down because you get too much traffic, right? Now, obviously, this is a wide case. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen on the website Reddit, where Reddit calls it the Reddit hug of love, where someone will put something on Reddit and it'll go viral and it'll shut down the server. Yeah, traffic can be an expense unless it's focused traffic.
Right.
So, you know, so don't think that just it's traffic. Yes, you need traffic to get to those customers, but traffic is a step in that direction, and the customers are the most. Now, I would suggest maybe like you could have a main goal. Hey, signed up for a counseling session. You could also have what we call a soft goal, which might be signing up for an email list that you send them. Yeah. With tips and suggestions and seasonal ideas. What do you do with your children while they're out of school and they don't have the structure?
Yeah, that's part of what our immediate action plan is to increase internal links. So like our blog posts right now have links to share the blog, you know, to share it on Facebook, to share it on wherever, but it doesn't have internal links redirecting back to like our contact forms. So that's a change we're going to be making also within the site. Right. And then also increasing our frequently asked questions, since for the service we provide, those are really common search topics. So to then add those to our frequently asked questions and then provide the internal links in the frequently asked questions back to our contact form and back to what we do was another like immediate action that we were thinking of taking.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are all great steps. Okay. And the data will help you know, because I think what you'll find is pretty quickly there's a lot going on, and you'll want to you'll have to say, well, what is the most important thing to accomplish? Right. And you don't want to go, first of all, you don't need to go based on feeling or I heard a rumor. You can go on data because you have the data. Right. And so that's why the first couple steps are all set up to data. Right. That way you can be a check and you can kind of say, oh, well, is this really important? Well, look at this. People who did this became customers more often or signed up for our email more often. So yeah, that's really important. And you helps you focus. Yeah. And so I recommend that a lot. Anita, Lavanya, does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. I find this a really common question. That's why I thought it was such a good question. There's a lot of people really like to get straight into the SEO. So let's get to the second part of your question, Allie. So would it be effective to create a standard opener and closer for all blog posts that uses the keywords or phrases I'm identifying? Could you think of it? Could you give an example of what you mean by that?
So what I was thinking of right now, all of our blog posts dive right into the topic at hand. And what I was thinking of was kind of adjusting that to having a standard opener, like welcome back to the, Grand Behavior Services blog. This is where we talk about what, and like hit some of those key phrases, like what is ABA? What do we do? And have those standard phrases in there, then post the, have the actual blog post. And then again, at the end, kind of reinforce that so that each time we put in that SEO on the actual web page, because we have like the little, thing to type in a key phrase, we could put a standard key phrase like, what is ABA, and then just add the detail of whatever the individual topic is.
Okay. So I think there's a couple ways we could answer this. We could answer this from the SEO perspective, but we can also answer this from the user perspective. Mm-hmm. And more, those two are not separate. Google really likes things that are good for users. Mm-hmm. So from an SEO perspective, I kind of have to say, no, don't do that.
Okay.
Google does not like what it calls repetitive or duplicate content.
Interesting. Okay.
Part of what Google does right now when they go to any page is they look at the page and they say, okay, how does this compare to other pages? And they try to determine, okay, what's repeated on every page? Is it the same sidebar? Is it the same footer? And with the blog post, they'd say, oh, there's a similar beginning and a similar end. Google is identifying that as what they call supplementary content. So it's actually downvaluing it because each page has a focus. Mm-hmm. So for instance, your sidebar, a lot of websites design, I haven't seen yours for a little bit, but the sidebar design sometimes will have really valuable content. We'll have navigation content, how to get to different things, maybe have a call to action, great stuff. But Google says that is secondary to the main purpose of the page, as it should be, right? Because it's not really, it's shared amongst all pages. Well, the same thing's true with if you did a kind of a boilerplate beginning and end. Mm-hmm. Even if you just changed a word in it, right? Google's smarter than that. It knows it's the same thing with a different word. Mm-hmm. And so what it will do is basically ignore it. It'll say, okay, this is the same on every page. What's the main page really about? And it'll skip to the big blog content. So from an SEO perspective purely, yeah, probably not a good idea.
So even though it has a common key phrase,
right,
because you're repeating that key phrase, it doesn't actually help.
And I'm going to read in between the lines here. You're using a WordPress site, and that WordPress site is using the Yoast SEO plugin.
Yes, 100%.
Right. I love the Yoast SEO plugin. It's great. What I hate about it is that green light.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I don't like the face. It makes me upset.
Exactly. And here's the thing. If Google was really thinking about your page in terms of one phrase, that would be a great idea. Mm-hmm. But Google thinks about your pages in terms of topics, mm-hmm, not pages.
Okay.
So what people end up doing is obsessing on the green light for a page. And they end up hurting themselves by doing stuff like, oh, I'm just going to replace the same word and I'm going to get that green light.
Yeah.
The Yoast plugin's great, but if you obsess on it and you try to get the green thing, you could end up hurting yourself.
Yeah.
We got to remember the Yoast plugin is a third-party tool trying to help you. Mm-hmm. It's not like Google says, oh, Yoast says it's green, I'm going to rank the page higher. No, right. Yoast is great. There's a lot of really good things about the Yoast SEO plugin, but I find that little green light is a little bit confusing and it makes people make mistakes.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that distinction because, like, obviously in general, just website management and stuff is new to me.
Yeah.
And I'm, if you couldn't tell, a little type A, but a lot. So when I see the little red angry face or even like the little orange, like neutral face, I'm like, what the hell? No, this is not acceptable. And so I like,
give it the finger
and it feels like no
on.
matter what I do, it never turns green. And then I get mad and so I'm glad that you're just like, ignore that. So.
Yeah. Now that's more important on your like main landing pages, mm-hmm, right? but it's probably not important on your blog posts.
Right. Okay.
And I think I say that in the how to write for blog content process document. But, you know, for the blog, and this kind of transitions into the second perspective for this question. I said from an SEO perspective, but also from a user perspective. Users don't typically consume content from the blog systematically going through each blog page.
Right. They're going to be triggered by specific content.
Well, what usually happens is someone goes to Google and says, hey, you know, what is ABA therapy for my child? And lo and behold, your blog post will show up for it. And that will be the first time they land on it. Right? They don't go, most of your traffic will land on your homepage, but not every visitor starts there.
Graham post as a blog today.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Right. Okay. So don't assume people are reading through your blog. That's not even the real value of it. So to have some sort of introduction, welcome back, would be like, yeah, this is the first time we've met.
Right.
Or that'd be like a little weird.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So don't assume that's how people are interacting with your blog. And so, yeah, in that sense, it's a bad idea. But what you're encountering is the pressure of producing such a large amount of content from an SEO perspective and trying to optimize for the keyword. And that's pushing you into these kind of things like, okay, what keyword is this blog post for? And what keyword is this blog post for? And I got to do 2 more this week. And that's why starting from the beginning is going to help you. And then I would almost rather you dial back to 1 blog post a week.
Right.
So you can really think about what you're going to say and have a really cool blog post. Then hit an arbitrary number of 2 to 3. Right? If you could do 2 or 3, that's great. I mean, I wish I could do 2 or 3 on my blog every week, right? Absolutely.
So really, it's going back to be like quality over quantity and really trying to pursue topics that are going to be searched.
Right.
I want to add something that a lot of people don't know. And I only know this because I know someone that does it and I tested to do this. But there are people who their job is to go through things that are listed on Google and to rate whether or not it was relative or not. So that user experience that you were talking about factors very much in how pages are ranked now. It's not just keywords. It's it says this, is this the information that's there? Was this information valuable or was it just so much garbage on a page?
Did the page actually answer the question being asked?
Right,
or did it
right. And I have a friend that has been doing that since about 2010, 2011 in various versions of it. I did the test to do it, and I'm gonna tell you that test for Google melted my brain. I literally had a headache for about 2 days after that because it was so very intense.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I hate that it was actually the mobile version that shot me in the foot because I don't do mobile. I still don't do mobile. And that was years ago. I still don't do a lot on mobile, but it was the mobile part of it that shot me in the foot. Otherwise, I had a contract with them with the user experience part of that.
Those are called the manual reviewers. And they, every once in a while, Google will publicly release the Google Manual Review Guidelines. And you can read them and see how the manual reviewers are taught to evaluate the quality of web pages. And the theory is, because no one knows, because if you are doing it, you're not allowed to talk to people like me or you about it. is that Google releases old versions of the manual review guidelines, not the current version. So the last version I saw was December, I think. And I've read them very in like with a fine-tooth comb, right? For all the reasons Anita mentioned. Yeah, exactly. Because it is tough. It is really hard. These are just the guys. I didn't have to take the test. I props to you, Anita, for trying. I'm impressed. And yeah, it's and good. It's nice to hear a third party confirm. Yeah, it's great.
Even just I've been signing up for the Google Cloud seminars they have now, like and half of the ones that I'm like, all right, I'm just going to add this to my calendar because I think it might be useful, but I only understand about 25% of what they're describing, but like I'll either figure it out or I won't. So,
well, Google has a really great library of classes you can take. Mm-hmm. The one I take every year is the Google Analytics individual qualification exam. And it really delves you deep into Google Analytics. Mm-hmm. And in fact, this year we, with a few of us in the game plan, we kind of did a study group together and studied together and took the test. Half of us didn't pass the first time.
I'm sure I would fail 100%.
Yeah, I feel the only reason I passed it the first time is because I've taken it for the last 10 years. But I highly recommend it, especially if you're stuck at home and bored and want something to do. But I'm not saying this is exciting, but it's going to be really helpful.
Well, it's like, we're pretty small business. And so right now, as like the operations person, I'm diving into so many different aspects of it. So like I'm diving into the SEO part of it, the analytics part, the cloud part, the G Suite access and grouping, and like what can you do within G Suite. And it's like there's also a lot of jargon within Google like itself. So it's like looking up what is the, like I always have to have a window on the side, like what is blah 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 like, so that I know what the hell it is. But it's like a whole other world. It's really fascinating.
Good. Well, yeah. So did we answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, I was wrong. Exactly how I thought was the wrong way.
I did not say it that way.
No, but it's it's good feedback, and I like focusing on hot topics and quality over quantity, reducing repetitiveness, really just finding like what is it that people are searching for and what drives people. And yeah, we also use the website Answer the People. Is that good?
Answer the Public?
Yeah. So I've been using that to see like what people search and how people search, like putting in those common for like word like ABA and autism.
Use the free version of it. Use the free version.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I think you only can do like 5 a day or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing it more than that, so it's like.
There's another tool that's called keyword.io that is a free account with unlimited use, but you're going to give them your email address. I've not felt they spammed me. But keyword.io will do a very similar thing to Answer the Public.
Interesting.
Answer the Public I like because it is organized into groupings, like here are all the what questions, here are all who questions. I like that.
Yeah.
And keyword.io doesn't do that, but it does a lot of other similar things.
And you say they don't spam you?
I'm sorry?
You say they don't spam you?
No, I've not received spam from signing up for them. I've used them for 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, highly recommend them. But I do like Answer the Public a lot too, for the same reason. They're both pulling data from the same source, Google Autocomplete.
Right.
So it's all real questions people are really asking Google. We just don't get the data with the numbers with each of those. We just get someone has asked, what is ABA therapy? Okay.
Right.
I want to answer that question because that's what I do, right? So then that's really good. But I like keyword.io. They have a paid plan too. I have not used it.
Everybody does.
I don't know if you need it, but
There's a paid plan for everything.
of course. Like, yeah, hello. It's like we got to pay our mortgages or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pandora's still trying to get me on their paid plan. Absolutely not.
All right. Well, did anybody else have any questions? Lavanya, Anita, any questions we can answer for you today?
I'll have to come back with you next week on this one because I have Ghostery as an extension.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to see something like an icon or something in the top?
Are you
But I
using
do see
Chrome?
like a little circle at the bottom that has like numbers in it. I think that's tied to Ghostery.
Okay. Yeah. So I switched this last week from Chrome to Firefox. I just kind of got tired of Chrome. And so things look different. But the first thing I did is install Ghostery here. So when Ghostery is running, you should see the little blue ghost, even no matter which browser you're using. And you can click on it, and it tells you which tracking's going on. So Curious Ants is showing Google Analytics, the Google Ajax Search API, Ayubenda, which is that privacy thing, Tag Manager, and Gravatar, which is inherent in WordPress. Now, are you seeing, Lavanya, something purple at the bottom?
Yeah, with numbers, but I didn't know because I apparently I installed it initially when I was going through your steps.
Yeah.
And I went to do it again and said it was already an extension on Google Chrome, but I don't see it up here. Maybe I have too much stuff at the top, but
okay, that could be.
I'll try Firefox and see if I see it in there.
Yeah, if you go into settings, under one of the settings it's called purple box, and I turn that off because what the purple box does is say, it pops up on your screen, hey, these are the trackers on this website.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't find that particularly helpful. If I want to know the trackers, I just click the blue ghost and find out. So I've unchecked this box here. And, just for context, why I recommend we do this, whether you're running your own site or you're managing your client's sites, I don't want to inflate my numbers. And honestly, even like, here's my site, Curious Ants. I don't care about how many times I visited this site.
Right.
So this prevents me from inflating my own numbers. So when I look at my data, I can see it's everybody else but me. Or you when you visit because you've turned Ghostery too. But yeah, that's the purple thing on Ghostery. And one of the other little tricks is what you're blocking. So I've set this up to be pretty broad. So it is still allowing me to have some trackers like the comment trackers, audio video player trackers, social media trackers and all that. But it's turned off analytics and those things. You could be really strict and you could turn off all this stuff. You'd be surprised at how easily that breaks websites because fonts and stuff won't load. Social media buttons won't load, stuff like that. But yeah, I think you'll be happy using Ghostery, especially because you'll have better, more accurate data on your sites. It also prevents some spam. So the ads won't follow you around as you're visiting websites, which is kind of nice. All right, anything else? Okay, well, I've already done a couple of things this week to the game plan that will probably come to you later. One is I added a little thing called how to build links using the Hero site. Eventually, you'll all need to start thinking about your link building strategies for your website. There's a lot to this, and it's worth the time to read the rules, because there are rules when it comes to link building. But Haro is a little service that I like to subscribe to. I get an email 3 times a day from reporters who are looking for source material.
Interesting.
And so if I feel like I, as an expert, can reply as an expert to one of their questions, great, I will. And sometimes they will not only call me back or interview me, or sometimes I just print the quote I send them on an email, which is great publicity. But better, sometimes they link to me. Well, I'm excited because I did one yesterday, and I might be in Forbes. So, I mean, that's pretty exciting. I hope I don't get myself too excited. I might not be in Forbes, but they're like someone's set up an interview with me next Monday, and like all I had to do was reply to an email. And boy, I'll take a link from Forbes all day long, you know? You know, even if the link didn't help me with SEO, it would still be a great link to have to my website. So this kind of gets into this, but you know, link building is just one part of the process, right? And I kind of built the process in light of a lot of experience. So I wouldn't recommend you starting here. You know, you got to start somewhere, but this is just something that, you know, eventually I hope you all get to, and you'll all benefit from, especially those of you like Lavanya who manage a lot of clients. Like this, you can kind of look at this and say, oh, look, this query applies to that client, this query applies to this client, and this query applies to me, and you can end up helping a whole lot of clients. For Allie, it might be harder to do because you're very focused, and it might not be a lot. There might be a lot of junk, but every once in a while, someone asks a question about autism,
right?
And you'll want to jump in on that.
Yeah,
right.
Especially because we're in the tri-state area, so it's
yeah. So anyway, this is kind of something new. I just published it there. I've used Haro for years. And as I was excited about the opportunity, I was like, okay, I'm going to write it up and put it in here. So
I have a question about the Ghostery. Is Google Analytics supposed to be marked out?
I'm sorry?
Is Google Analytics is supposed to be marked out up under the Ghostery?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
See how this one's slashed out? Is if you don't see that, what you can do is you can hit the block on all sites button, and it'll start blocking that everywhere.
Oh, okay.
If it's not scratched out, it's tracking. So I want to keep Google Tag Manager running.
Okay.
But I want Ayubena showing up. Actually, Gravatar, there, reload to see changes. Now Gravatar's killed. Does that matter? No. But yeah, you should, when you exclude things, you should see it crossed out. Okay. You can also, if you are running Ghostery and you feel a website's broken, or a website will sometimes tell you, hey, you're using an ad blocker, stop it. You can hit trust site, or you can pause Ghostery. So you can pause it for 30 minutes or an hour or 24 hours. So let's say you're working on a client site and something's broken, well, pause it for 24 hours while you figure it out and make sure it's not just you seeing it. Or for instance, if I log into Google AdWords, sometimes it'll glitch out on me. So I'll trust Google AdWords. I don't know why I trust that site, but I trust the site so that none of the trackers interfere with me managing my clients' paid search campaigns. Does that help? Good. Okay. Well, and if we don't have any more questions, I appreciate everybody showing up today.
One more.
Okay.
If you have a like, let's say you have a person that just started out with their website, and so what we do the Google Analytics thing, we'll set that up first and then watch it for maybe a month or two and then go from there, or how would you?
I would set it up in understanding that for the first couple months, you're going to have very little visitors,
Mm-hmm.
but keep going anyway.
Okay.
Because once you get through the first couple steps,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're going to start doing the things that starts generating traffic.
Got you. Okay.
So you'll have the analytics set up, and then it will be exciting as one of the steps you'll get to is to build the local listings,
Mm-hmm.
which means your Google My Business and your Yelp and your Facebook local business page. You start building that, and suddenly the dashboard that gets sent to you every week starts showing traffic. And you're like, where'd that traffic come from? Oh, how awesome. It's something I did. And you'll feel excited, and you can send it to your client and say, looky, people are visiting your website. Isn't that exciting? Don't you want to pay me again next month? And they'll say, well, as a matter of fact, I will be happy to pay you next month. And then anyway, I'm being silly, but there's some truth to that, right?
Right.
This is all a slog sometimes, and having those analytics in there to kind of reinforce, hey, it's really doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it feels so good. So yeah, don't stop once you set up analytics. Keep going. And what you'll see is as you're doing things, you'll see more and more visitors come in, and then you'll see those visitors accomplishing the goals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the first couple months, especially if it's a brand new site, it's going to be big goose eggs for a little bit, unfortunately.
David, now
Yeah.
for a company that is more of online, but may have local events, but the events aren't at one particular place every time, is the local beneficial for them?
So they are a local business, but they have events in other locations?
Well, one of my clients is a nonprofit.
Okay.
Most of what they do is digital. They've always done a lot of digital events, but like every year they have a big conference that is somewhere in their local area.
Okay.
Sometimes they do events that will be with a local business. There was a big Saturday shopping thing right before the holidays that they did with a particular business. It was their event, but it kind of promoted this one business more or less. How would you see local type things? I know there is a Yelp page. I'm not quite sure why. I'm trying to figure out how a Yelp page benefits a company that is mostly digital, even though their center is within a certain geographic location. So I'm just trying to figure out how some of these pieces work together.
Yeah, exactly. So in the game plan, there's a process called local listings. Let me see if I can find it. And it goes into this a little bit. And so step number 9, local listings. This explains why they're important, what you expect from it, and how to do it. And so the short version is if you're an online business, let's take my main company, Reliable Acorn, as example. I don't really need people to come to my office to do business for them, right? I don't really need you to be in Charlotte, North Carolina for me to do business with you. But I still have local listings because there are people who look for my services locally, and I want to be able to be found by them, even though I can help much broader than just people in the Charlotte area. So that's one reason to do it. And so then these other things like Yelp and others, what they do is they help my Google My Business listing show up more often, because when Google sees the information in my listing, they say, hey, that's great, but they want to confirm that my business really is where I say it is and it really is still in business, so that they can provide quality data to their users. And one of the ways they do that is what they call name, address, phone number consistency, meaning how many other websites say Reliable Acorn is at my address with my phone number. And so the more websites that say my business is at this location, the more likely my business will show up in my Google My Business listing. Yelp is one of those places that Google uses to say, is that business really there? And so if you have a name, address, phone number consistent with your Google My Business listing, it helps your Google My Business listing show up more often. But that'll help you for people looking for you, if they're looking for your services locally, whether or not you really are limited to a geography. So in this case, if the company does business almost exclusively online, it's not really important to do. But if someone is searching for a local provider of what they do, which sometimes people might, this will help them get found for it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, so that the address piece is the part that I'm kind of, because most people that are pretty much exclusively online do not show a physical address.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to kind of figure.
Yeah.
With the local stuff, you know, it may say, oh, like there's several things that say, you know, San Jose, California, but there's not a specific street address.
Right. So for name, address, phone number consistency, you need to show your name, address, and phone number. For some businesses, this is a real struggle because, for instance, my business is in my home. And I like you all.
There, you hit it.
Yeah, right.
This woman runs a nonprofit, but her office is in her home.
Right.
So we are very careful about where we put that information.
Yes.
So, okay, you absolutely relate. I have the same situation. My office is in my home. I'm pretty sure LJ is the same. Her office is in her home.
Yeah.
So how do we go about utilizing those kind of tools while still maintaining our privacy? Is that where you pick up one of these places like a WeWork, so you have some other address that you show?
Yeah, I use UPS. I just registered mine with UPS as an address.
That's one way to do it.
Or the post office, cheaper.
Yeah, yeah. Mailboxes, etc. WeWork will allow you to use them as an address. The other question is simply, is it worth it? You might not need to do it. And obviously, if, hey, we're talking about SEO, but I want everybody to be safe, right? Yeah. So please don't risk yourself by publishing your address publicly.
I did that because when I registered my business, I didn't want my home address being all over the place. When you register your business, that's public information.
Right.
So that's why I got me another address.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad you're thinking about it, and let's not SEO ourselves into danger, because that's not worth it. So if that's the case, then you need to evaluate whether local is very important to this business or this nonprofit in your case or not. And if it's not, then you can kind of skip this step and save yourself trouble and do other stuff. If you think it's important, there are strategies to do it. Like Lavanya said, Mailbox, etc., or WeWork or something like that. Yeah, those are great alternatives. You know, maybe there's a partner that would allow you to do something. Maybe get an office in a you know, there's all kinds of options. But think creatively and remember that, yeah, you're publishing your address publicly, and please be safe about that. Well, that's a great question, Anita. I'm so glad you asked that, because it's really important to remember that not everybody can publicly list their addresses.
Right. And, you know, I guess because that has been the case with me, and both versions of my business life. My home has been my office. I have always been very wary of how much, well, I am, you know, old enough to be one of those people that were on the internet back in the 90s. And so some of my habits are very much from then. I don't put my address anywhere. No, not my phone number. You want my email address for what? You know, that's why I have so many different email addresses, because I have addresses for specific things.
Yep.
And specific, you know, if it's something I don't probably will never look at, it goes to the email address attached to my Facebook, because that is the oldest email address I have. And I honestly have had that since back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Do I look at it? No. I can get in it, but I don't look at it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I use email addresses as a filing system and there's a very few that I actually look at even on a weekly basis. So, you know, I even project that wariness to my customers. If they don't have a brick and mortar thing, I'm always, do you really want this information out there? You know, I won't even put, and Google probably hates this about me, but I'm very leery about even putting an email address on a web page, customer facing.
Yep.
Because I know people will crawl websites pulling email addresses, and you're more likely to get a bunch of spam that way. So yeah, I'm just, a lot of those old habits have never died.
Yep. No, you're thinking about it exactly right. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm glad everyone here can benefit from that. Thank you. Well, I have to roll, but thank you for such a great set of questions today, and good input from everybody. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a good week, and I look forward to catching up with you next.
I won't see you next week. Just letting you know, because I finally got a hair appointment. I absolutely cannot change it. I'm literally dying. My hair is so long and disgusting. I need a haircut.
My mommy cut my hair last week.
Oh my God. It's so long. No, I need to go. It's like, it's emergency level. So I will not be here for office hours next week.
Okay, well, we'll give you a pass for haircut.
Sorry.
You all have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank
You too. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.